Are the Chicago Bears interested in this man right here, Jim Harbaugh? Recent reports surfacing around Harbaugh and the Chicago Bears. We're going to dive into it all here on today's episode of Bears Now by Chat Sports. My name is Harrison Graham, but before we do that, if you want the Bears to hire Jim Harbaugh to replace Matt Eberflus, like the video. Hit the thumbs up icon if you want to bring Jim back to Chicago where he was the quarterback in the late 80s and early 90s. Hit that like button if you want Harbaugh to lead this franchise. Today's episode of Bears Now is presented by HexClad. Update your kitchen cookware with HexClad. Awesome pots, pans, and much more, which you can get 10% off at hexclad.com/chatsports. Go ahead and do that and upgrade today. Speaking of upgrading, why not upgrade from Matt Eberflus to Jim Harbaugh if the opportunity is there? And it sounds like that thought is being discussed at Hallis Hall. Dianna Russini hopped on Colin Cowherd's show and said the following. She said, quote, "The Chicago Bears are an organization that I have heard has had some conversations about that," talking about hiring Jim Harbaugh, "depending on what decision they make with the coaching staff that is in place. And of course, what they do with the QB situation. Jim is certainly a name that is respected in league circles in the NFL. Ownership is definitely interested in what he could bring back to the NFL. I certainly think that this is going to continue through the end of the season when ownership can begin their coach search." Let me just first say this. I think Jim Harbaugh wants out of college football. There's been rumors for years now that he's interested in this job, he's interested in that job, XYZ, and I think in recent years, for the most part, that's come from him and his camp, to be honest. I think teams are interested more now than probably ever because I do think he is attainable given what's gone on this season at Michigan where he's suffered 2-3 game suspensions. I think he wants out. And I think if you're the Chicago Bears, the door is open. I really do think there's an opportunity to bring this guy in. And I would love to see it happen, man, because the guy's a proven winner. Doesn't matter what the level is. He has won everywhere he's been at. San Diego wins. Stanford took them from irrelevancy to BCS bowl games. 49ers, Super Bowl appearance, NFC Championship games. Michigan, he's got them on the precipice of potentially winning a national championship there, and he has become Ohio State's daddy the last 3 years. You guys know I want Jim Harbaugh. Is he weird? Yes. Do I love the cheating accusations? No, I don't. Do we know everything that's going on with that and his involvement? I don't think we do. I can look past it based on what we know. Now, if huge new stuff comes out where he orchestrated the whole thing, this and that, okay, like that throws a wrench into things, but I don't get the sense that it is that way. I get the sense that he probably had small knowledge of it. He's the head coach, so he has to take responsibility. I'm willing to move past that. He's a proven winner for almost 20 years in this business, regardless of the level, and he's done it at the NFL level. Come on, man. Jim Harbaugh, you guys should want him too. How badly do you want Jim Harbaugh? Scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say about a 38. I want this guy in Chicago. What say you? Scale from 1 to 10, 1 being you don't want him at all, 10 being you desperately want him. Chicago, it's time. Swing big for once. Don't go hire Mark freaking Trestman, a CFL coach, and have him burn out in 2 years. Don't bring in John Fox, who is half retired and couldn't believe that he was going to get a third head coaching opportunity. That is not the answer. Do not bring in an assistant under an Andy Reid caliber coach. Now, you want to bring in Ben Johnson, who's resurrected Jared Goff's career and is a proven play caller. I can get on board with that. But you want to swing big, you want to go for the Grand Slam, that is Jim Harbaugh. Period. End of story. He's the most qualified. He's the most proven. And I think you can get him. I really do. I really think you can. I think Jim Harbaugh deep down would agree with me when I say this. This is the best scenario for him. Win the national championship this year. Leave Michigan fans happy. Hand the baton off to Sharon Moore, who has filled in beautifully while Harbaugh was out in these games, and then return to the NFL. I don't think he wants to coach in college football. I think he loves the University of Michigan, but the hoops you have to jump through to be a college coach, you got to recruit, you've got all these NCAA rules, this and that and the other. There's all the conference changing all the time stuff. The NFL is very simple. You coach, you win, you manage a salary cap, and usually there's a GM for that. Although Harbaugh could want some player personnel control. We'll definitely talk about that as well. But if you want Jim Harbaugh, I think you should be rooting for him to win the national championship because that would be the perfect time to leave Michigan. We are sponsored by Hexclad here on today's show. Best pots and pans available. You know why? Because they're durable. They're going to cook things evenly. Non-stick cookware that you can put into your washing machine, even though it is stainless steel. Oh, and by the way, you can crank up the heat up to 500 degrees, and these pots and pans can handle it. It's absolutely fantastic. We have an awesome holiday deal for you guys at hexclad.com/chatsports. Use to get 10% off at hexclad.com/chatsports. Usually when selecting pans, you must choose between the performance of stainless steel, the durability of cast iron, and the convenience of nonstick. But with Hexclad, you can have it all. Their hybrid technology gives you the benefits of all three in one pan. And they truly check every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. I mentioned the durability up to 500 degrees in your oven, dishwasher safe, utensil safe. It is awesome. Oh, by the way, lifetime warranty. If somehow these pots and pans do break, they're going to send you new ones for 100% free. Go to hexclad.com/chatsports. Hexclad.com/chatsports. I mean, look at that absolutely wonderful piece of meat that you could throw in your Hexclad pan tonight. I mean, listen to this thing. It's absolutely fantastic. You think this thing's breaking? No, and guess what? If it does, you're going to get another one. 10% off. Link in the comments and in the description. Hexclad.com/chatsports is the standard. So is Jim Harbaugh. I'm not saying he would be the best coach in the NFL. He would be the best and most proven coach that the Bears have had in a long time. Jeremy Fowler also reporting that Harbaugh could be eyeing a return to the NFL, that his name has percolated in league circles. Here's what Fowler had to say in an article for ESPN recently. He said, Harbaugh's name has percolated in league circles, with many believing this might be the year he takes the plunge back in the NFL. He very well might want personnel power to accompany coaching duties. More on that in a little bit. He'd have a clear advantage in talking with teams that, per NFL rules, must wait after the divisional round of the playoffs to interview candidates currently employed by NFL teams. We'll further explain that as well. Harbaugh isn't beholden by those rules and is free to talk now. So let's talk about the first part of that quote. Will Jim Harbaugh want player personnel control? He's a control freak. Obviously, at the college level, he gets that as the head coach. Had some personnel control in San Francisco. So would he want that, and how does that fit with Ryan Poles, obviously, your current general manager, who has certainly missed some, but I think has done a pretty decent job of rebuilding this roster over the last couple of years. Can they work together? So I'm going to ask you this question. This one's a little bit tough. Would you hire Jim Harbaugh if it meant losing Ryan Poles? Type H for hire or P for pass. If it's, hey, you can either have Harbaugh, but you lose Poles and Eberflus, or you keep Poles and he either decides to keep Flus or hires a different head coach, what would you rather have? Would you rather hire Jim Harbaugh, or would you pass and go in a different direction? Let me know down in the comments. I will discuss my thoughts on that a little bit more in just a moment. But hey, can we get to our next milestone before our next game against the Lions? Bears off this week, so we've got about 10 days until that matchup against the Lions on Sunday in Week 14, 10 days from now. We're trying to get to 81,000 subscribers, just over 540 away. Challenging you guys, can we get there? If you want daily Bears videos, hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free. Here's what I'll say about the Poles, Harbaugh, the player personnel control dilemma that you could face. I don't get the sense right now that Ryan Poles' seat is hot. I don't. Matt Eberflus, I think that's a different story. Ryan Poles, I think if I were a betting man, I would bet that he's back next year. So I would hope that he and Jim Harbaugh could coexist. If I had to guess, I don't think the Bears would give Harbaugh full player personnel decisions. Now, could they give him like heavy involvement where maybe Ryan has final say, but Jim Harbaugh's seat is absolutely at the table and then some. And, you know, maybe the compromise is he has final quarterback say coming up, because that's obviously the big elephant in the room. If with any coach you're interested in hiring in, if you move on from Matt Eberflus, is Justin Fields your quarterback? And if he is, obviously Jim Harbaugh would want say in that, or any coach would want say in that. I don't think that can solely be a Poles decision. Like when you're interviewing these candidates, one of the first questions got to be, hey, what do you think about Justin Fields? What do you think about Caleb Williams, Drake May, as we have a top pick in this draft? Like, who would you rather go get? And you obviously take that into account. So I would hope both coexist. If it was an all-or-nothing move, as much as it would, I wouldn't love it because I do like Ryan Poles, I still think I'd do it, man. Like, Jim Harbaugh's a proven winner. It's time to raise the standard, man. It really is. Now, I do want to get to the second part of that thing that Jeremy Fowler mentioned. This is new this year. So you cannot interview assistant coaches on playoff teams until after the divisional round. So let's think this through a little bit. NFL Week 18 ends. The next weekend is wild card round. Weekend after that is divisional. So you're talking about 2 weeks before you could interview some of these candidates. Like if the Lions make it to the divisional round of the playoffs, you can't talk to Ben Johnson until at least 15 days after the regular season ends. That's a decent amount of time. Now, I think it's good for the league because you don't want playoff teams having high-ranking coaches distracted before getting prepared for the biggest games of the year. Otherwise, what's the point? But you do wonder how teams are going to operate because of that. And again, if you're Jim Harbaugh and if your team's interested in Jim Harbaugh, you don't have to wait for that. You could talk to him right now if you want to, because he is not an NFL coach and he is not an assistant for a potential playoff team. And again, just you look at Matt Eberflus, you look at how it's looked, and I do want to give him credit. The defense has gotten better this year. I do think they're better than their record says this year, which is 4-8. They are 4-4 in their last 8 games. But at the end of the day, you are what your overall record says you are. You're 7-22. You've won 1 divisional game by the skin of your teeth last week against Minnesota. You still have yet to win back-to-back wins. Better go beat Detroit if you want to change the narrative next week. You have 1 win over a team that was above 500 when you played them. Last week against Minnesota, against Josh Dobbs. They're now 6-6. You suffered a 14-game losing streak at one point. Could this evolve enough where he's an adequate coach? Maybe. I don't want adequate. I want a team that's got a chance to be a playoff team every year and potentially compete for Super Bowls. It is time, past time, to raise the standard here in Chicago. If Flus wanted to stay and coach the defense, I'm all in. We know it doesn't work that way, though. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. All right, guys. Busy video today. Lots around Jim Harbaugh. It's going to be very interesting to see how the next few weeks and couple months play out. Follow me on Twitter at HGramNFL. Also, we'll be back live this afternoon, probably 4 o'clock Central Time, to discuss more Chicago Bears news and rumors, take your questions, and much more. So subscribe and join us then.